Hello and welcome to another live stream for my high school football championship series. We're now entering week two after a very successful week one episode, I believe, from just the other night. So we did all four games on Tuesday night. This is Thursday night that I'm live streaming this right now. So you may be catching it live or you may be catching it at a later date. That's not terribly important. But tonight, we've got two games scheduled on the docket for tonight. We're going to do the other two games a little bit later in the week. All four in one night was a bit much, but I was so excited to kick things off. I had to get all four games in on that first night, and it was definitely a success. We had a lot of exciting moments. We had some blocked field goals. We had some big runs. We had some big pass plays. We had a 1 point game. We had a game that went into overtime. So a lot of good stuff to look forward to. That leads to some excitement leading up to these next games coming up. Again, we've got a 7 game schedule laid out, so we've still got 6 more games or 6 more weeks of games to go. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing how this is all going to shake out. Now, real quick note, because just going back and watching those videos from the previous stream, there's a couple of quick notes I want to make. One, I apologize in advance if there's any fluctuating audio issues. That seems to be a very common reoccurring issue with OBS Studio, which is what I'm using to do all of this through. And while there are multiple suggestions on how to fix that online, they don't all always seem to work. So it's just something I may have to deal with. I've done what I can to try to limit that and mitigate it a little bit, but there may still be some audio fluctuations here and there. So I do apologize in advance for that. The other thing is streaming directly from my PS5 worked fine to a degree, but I can't do all of this neat overlay stuff with that. And I can tell you that by streaming through this, it makes the image a lot darker. So the videos were a lot darker than what they should be. So I've had to make some adjustments to the lighting as far as the video goes, and what that's resulting in that I've noticed is the colors washed out just a little bit. So just a point of note, the colors that you're seeing on screen that you're going to be watching on this video, they're a little more washed out than what they are in the actual game. They're a little bit darker, a little bit deeper and richer actually in the game, particularly the reds. Like when you see Ellender pop up with that red, and the purples also for Thibodeau, those aren't what you're seeing isn't quite accurate as to what they look like in the game. They're a little deeper, a little richer in game. So just keep that in mind as we go through. I've kind of done the best I can with the adjusting on that, but it's a matter of washing out the colors so you can actually see everything clearly, or having accurate colors, but the whole screen's darker and it just doesn't look good when it's dark and it's hard to see everything. So it's hard to find a good balance. But anyway, moving on from that, yeah, we've got an exciting lineup going here today. So let me recap last week real quick. If you missed it, go back and watch it, man. I've got them. I've got them lined up in a playlist. I've got them here on Twitch in a collections playlist, so you can go back. You can watch each game individually. You don't have to watch the whole 3.5 hour video all at once to get to an individual game. I've broken them up into individual games, so you can go back and just watch whichever game you want to watch, or if you just want to watch one at a time and catch them you know, uh, on your own free time when you have available, you can do that. So they're on a playlist here and under collections. They're also going to be uploaded. They're not up there yet, but they will be soon uploaded to my YouTube channel, so you can watch them there as well. And I'll put them in a playlist there as well, so you'll have the whole thing week one go all the way through, and you can just go through the whole playlist that way if you would like to. So make sure you like and subscribe both here and on my YouTube channel so you don't miss any of the action. So in last week's matchup, we had Terrebonne defeated Morgan City 28-3. We had Thibodeau defeating HL Bourgeois 38-10 in a game that really wasn't even that close, if we're being honest. HL scored a late touchdown with like a minute and a half left in the game. That game was 38-3 for most going into the final 2 minutes of the fourth quarter. Um, so Thibodeau and Terrebonne both asserting their dominance early. Granted, they had weaker opponents this particular week, so we'll see how they hold up against a little bit stiffer competition as the season progresses. Uh, the other two games, we had South Terrebonne narrowly defeating Central Lafourche by a score of 17-16. Central Lafourche had an opportunity to win that game there at the end in the final 2 minutes, but unfortunately they couldn't capitalize on that. And then South Terrebonne managed to run out the clock. But a very close game there. And then in our final game, what a way to end it. We had Ellender defeating South Lafourche by a score of 24 to 22 in multiple overtimes. And I've got to tell you, I've done a lot of test simulations, and this was the first time I've had a game go into that many overtimes where they're just doing 2 point conversions over and over again. So it was, I actually lost count. I want to say it was 4 overtimes. There's at least 4 overtimes that that game went into. So very exciting. Really happy with the outcome of those games, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what we're going to do here. So with all that said, let's take a look at the standings. Of course, it's pretty simple to keep track right now. They've all only played one game, so as you know, Thibodaux, Terrebonne, South Terrebonne, and Ellender are currently tied at 1-0 at top of the standings, while Central Lafourche, South Lafourche, H.L. Bourgeois, and Morgan City sit at the bottom at 0-1. But excuse me, that's likely to change here this week. All right, before I get into the actual games themselves, there's one little minor thing I'd like to address here. And going forward, there's a very small, slight ratings adjustment that's been made to two players. I'm going to show you here in just a second, and I'm going to give you the reasoning for that. That's on me. What happened was, I'm going to give you a quick peek behind the curtains here. As I've said, when you're creating these teams, none of these ratings are adjusted in the game itself. Everything has to be done online. So I've got to go to the EA website and get into the Team Builder app from there, and that's where all of the ratings adjustment, any kind of editing you have to do to the uniforms or the roster is done there. Once you've edited it there, then you have to submit it to be available for download for everybody that can use. Then you've got to get onto your PlayStation or game system, go to those files, right? Because if you've already got the team on your system and I've made changes to the Team Builder app, it will not automatically reflect that in your game. You've downloaded the team you've downloaded is on your game. Whatever changes I make is not going to affect what's on your game system. You have to go in and re-download that team to get the update. So you're basically updating your team by re-downloading it. So that's what I've got to do. And in this whole process where I'm testing and making these tweaks and adjustments, I've had to do that with every single team, put them in my game, play them, see if I like it the way I like, everything's the way I like it. And then if I don't like it, I've got to go back, or if I see something I have to make a change, I've got to go back to the Team Builder app. I got to make the changes there, resubmit it, come back to my game system, re-download the team, then load them in and play from there and look at it again. So I can't tell you how many times I've had to do that with 18 different teams because I've got 8 high school teams and I've got 10 college teams that I've been working on. So I've been doing this back and forth, back and forth, back and forth with 18 different teams looking at all of them. And what happened was I did this with Ellender right before the season started. I made one final little minor adjustment and I just simply forgot to re-download them onto my game system before I started the season. So unfortunately, they did play that one game without the updated ratings that I did. Now these are very minor adjustments because we're talking about I'd made adjustments prior to this, so this is kind of like fine tuning here at the very end. And I'm going to go over here real quick and show you exactly what I did. I've got it called up, so let me just pull that up real quick. So here we are, and the only adjustments that I've made here is Justin Billiot, the starting quarterback. He got a slight ratings bump from an 84 overall to an 85 overall. And what you're going to see here is, let me move this over. So the only changes I made to him was I improved his accuracy just a little bit. And again, when I'm talking minor adjustments, I emphasize minor adjustments. So his short accuracy went from 88 to 90. His medium accuracy went, I think it was 85 to 87. And then his deep accuracy, I think, was an 83 to an 85. That's it. That's all I did. So very, very minor adjustments, but it was enough to bump him up. And I was able to give him this one extra skill perk right here next to my head that you can see, this dot skill perk. Now, the significance of that is, again, going back to the peek behind the curtains, is I told you there's a limited amount of pre-made rosters that you can choose from when you're building these teams. And when you're building multiple teams, inevitably you're going to have to use the same roster on more than one team. So several of these teams share a roster with another team, technically. So what happened was South Terrebonne and Ellender ended up with the same base roster that I started from. And then from there, I went in and made my tweaks and adjustments so that they look and feel a little bit different from each other. And it's minor adjustments to key players at key positions. I don't go through every single player and change every single player throughout the entire roster, but I do go through and try to find these key positions, key players at certain positions, and make minor adjustments here and there, just to give them a little bit more dynamic feel so they don't feel like they're carbon copies of each other. So this dot right here, these skill perks are very similar to the quarterback Stewart from South Terrebonne. In fact, I think I actually have him pulled up here. Hang on one. I sure do. Here we go. Great. Perfect. So here's Stewart's skill perks right here. You can see that extender and mobile resistance are on both of them, I believe. Maybe make sure. Yes, they both have extender and mobile resistance. However, because I adjusted those pass ratings, right, the accuracy, I was able to give him that dot skill perk right there, as opposed to Robert Stewart, who has the option king perk. So Stewart's much more of a running style quarterback. Both quarterbacks can run. They're both dual threat quarterbacks. But this dude is much more of a like almost like a running back when he takes off to run. So I wanted to give that feel to him to where when he takes off, he's much more of a threat to run the ball than this guy. Even though, as far as the computer is concerned, technically they're kind of the same player, right? Whereas Justin Billiot, considering in real life, he's playing professional football. Granted, it's not NFL, but he's playing semi-pro pro football to some degree. I felt like he should be a little bit higher as far as his passer rating goes. So I did that for him. It was a minor adjustment, minor change that did affect the overall team rating. So to balance that out, that's why the second player gets affected. To balance that out, I brought this guy down just a little bit. This is their starting running back, Drake S.J., and he went down from I believe a 90 overall to an 88 overall. You're probably not going to see much of an effect on that. All I brought down was his speed went from a 90 to an 88. Dude's still fast, and his acceleration went from a 90 to an 89. That was it. There may have been one other skill perk, skill point that I brought down by one or 2 points, but honestly I don't even remember what that was, if it was another one. But anyway, I just brought them down just a tad, and that helped to balance out. So Ellender's overall rating remains the same because of this. So that was the reasoning for bringing him down just a little bit. Um, basically, if you look at the South Terrebonne roster, he's the equivalent of their David Butler. So David Butler's a special running back, which if you've seen that first week, game one that South Terrebonne played, you need to go watch it if you haven't. But if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. This guy's a special dude. So I felt like they should be a little bit different from each other. So that and to help balance out the overall rating. That was the reasoning why I brought him down just a little bit. You probably won't notice it though, but if you're one of the people watching this that has already downloaded this team prior to watching this video, you might want to go ahead and re-download just to get the updated version. I think it'll be better to have Justin Billiard with those better passing stats than it would be without that. To him having just 2 points higher on speed versus having Justin Billiard having that extra accuracy with that extra skill perk. I think it's the better way to go if you're going to play with Ellender here. You still got Peyton right here, Jamal Peyton, who's still a speedster that you can also use. So that's definitely the way to go. And I think it's going to make, in the long term, I think it's going to make the games a lot more exciting. and better. I think it's gonna be a better fit for that. Now, I will say this too, just to close out. I know I'm running long here. I apologize with all the yapping, but this is a little important. I will say this: had the game gone differently from week one, I wouldn't have made this change in the middle of the season like this, or with the season already started. I debated whether or not I should do it. So I thought about it for a minute. I really didn't even notice it until I went back and I was watching my preview show videos, and then I realized those ratings aren't right. So I realized my oopsie. That again, that was on me. But had Ellender lost the game, or had SJ had a really big game, like a big run, like David Butler did, um, I wouldn't have made the change. I would have just wrote out the season the way it was, chalked it up to an error, and just wrote out the season with the stats the way they were, and then I would have updated at the end of the season. But because Ellender did win the game, I feel like bumping Billiot up wouldn't really have an effect. Making him better would have only helped them win the game more, right? So they won the game, so the outcome's the same. So I didn't feel like that was a big deal. And then SJ, I don't want to say SJ was, gosh, I don't want to say that he didn't have an impact, but as far as like big play, he didn't do what David Butler did. At one point, David Butler in the South Terrebonne game, there was one point in there where every time he touched the ball, it was a first down or a touchdown. We didn't have a big run from SJ. We didn't have any huge plays. He didn't score a touchdown in that game. I think he had a solid performance. Don't get me wrong. I think he had around 82 yards rushing on 15 attempts, if memory serves. So solid performance. But if we're being honest, as far as like a game-changing impact, I feel like probably could have gotten the same performance out of one of the backup running backs in that game. That's not to say that SJ is not going to make an impact going forward. He's still a guy that could break open a big play or a big run here or there. So keep an eye out for him in future games. But because he didn't have a big impact in that particular game, and because Ellender already won the game, I felt comfortable going ahead and updating with this roster, the updated ratings for the roster right now, so that going forward we can have everything correct the way it's supposed to be. So that was my reasoning behind that. I just trying to lay that out there. I don't want anybody to accuse me of, rigging anything. For the sake of transparency, I just want to lay all that out there. So again, oopsie on my part. Dealing with a lot of teams and a lot of stuff, a lot of this back and forth, trying to get things tweaked and set just right, and I just, you know, a little lapse there. So I apologize for that. But we're all straight now. We're good to go, and I'm looking forward to it. So now that all that's out the way, let's get on to the game. Let me go to a intermission screen just really quick. I got to reset up here on my game screen and get the first game set up, and then we're going to jump right into it. I'll be right back.